Ryan, ranks. We're back again having a good old rank sesh here on the second tier, and today we're looking at how likely every current championship manager is to be sacked this coming season. One of the reasons why the championship is the craziest league in the world is because we go through managers like it's nothing. I think I'm right in saying over the past 2 or 3 seasons, a manager has either resigned or been sacked on average every 2 weeks. I think that sounds right in my head. So that just goes to show how quickly we go through managers here in the old second tier. But without further ado, let's just get into it. So we've got our 5 categories here. We've got Get Comfy, which are the managers who are no danger of getting sacked at all this season. Should be okay. Yes, kind of speaks for itself. 50-50, uncertain, and pack your bags now. Managers who are almost certainly going to lose their jobs this coming season. So we'll just jump straight in, shall we, with someone who should not only start packing their bags now, but actually not unpack their bags in the first place. It's Hull City's new manager, Sergej Jakirović. The reason why is pretty simple, actually. Hull go through managers like it's nothing. The owner likes sacking managers, even when they're not necessarily doing a bad job, but as we've spoken about recently on the channel, he doesn't have a great CV to back up how well he's going to do at Hull. So I don't have high hopes for old Sergej Jakirović of doing a good job at Hull this season. So yeah, I would maybe just leave everything in the suitcase for now, Sergej. And we'll instantly even up things by putting someone in Get Comfy. Let's go with Johnny Eustace at Derby County. Johnny boy, I love you so much. Yeah, I can't see a position where John Eustace gets himself sacked this coming season. First of all, because I think Derby's expectations are pretty low this coming season. I think a lot of people are fancying them to do maybe quite well, but I think even if they just finished lower mid-table, I don't think many people would be like, oh, this is a disgrace, considering Derby only just stayed up by the skin of their teeth this coming season, or this past season even. So yeah, John Eustace I think should be Get Comfy. I think a lot of people are quite excited about what he can do with Derby going forwards, and if you ask me, I think Derby could do quite well this coming season. So yeah, I think John Eustace, put your slippers on, mate, and put your feet up. We'll just go with a random one next. How about Rob Edwards at Middlesbrough? I'm going to put him in should be okay. Now, first of all, it's got to be said, Middlesbrough, very patient club. Steve Gibson, the kind of guy who, he doesn't sack managers willy-nilly. So, with that being said, I would be surprised if Rob Edwards were to lose his job this coming season. The only thing that's given me a slight bit of doubt is if there's a hangover from how he did at Luton, of course, which didn't go very well at all. So if that were to happen and we were to see kind of a similar bad start like we saw at Luton last season, maybe he could find himself in a bit of danger, but I'd be surprised if that were to be the case, to be honest. I think Rob Edwards is a pretty tidy appointment by Middlesbrough, so I'm going to put him in should be okay, but I've just got that little bit of doubt in my mind. That means he may lose his job. We'll put someone in uncertain, shall we? How about... I'll put Ruben Sellers at Sheffield United in there for now, although I may put him in pack your bags. The reason I'm not too sure on him is because I think a lot of Sheffield United fans pretty upset about old Chrissy Wilder going. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if he finds himself in a bit of danger early on. I think he's in quite a rare position where he's having to win the fans over early on because obviously he's replacing Chris Wilder. And if things don't start well, a lot of Sheffield United fans will go, well, why have we got this guy in? We should have just stuck with Wilder. So I think Ruben Sellers could find himself in a bit of trouble this coming season. I think he's a good manager, and I think he's the kind of guy who Sheffield United will stick with. So I'm not going to necessarily put him in pack your bags now, but maybe as time goes on I may change my mind. We could do with someone going in 50-50 now, I guess, shouldn't we? How about Gerhard Struber at Bristol City? He's just so pivotal in this list that I've actually got his icon down here twice. I'm not too sure about how Gerhard Struber is going to do at Bristol City because he's had a pretty mixed spell. He's been over in America, then he was in Austria, and then he's been in the German second tier, and he's done pretty mixed at all of those jobs. I'm not necessarily sure how well he's going to do at Bristol City this coming season. So I'll put him in 50-50. Bristol City are a pretty patient club. They're definitely not one to go and sack a manager for no reason whatsoever. But if things don't go very well, wouldn't surprise me if he's out of a job. So yeah, but we'll put him in 50-50. I'm struggling to convince myself either way that should be in the category above or below him. Let's go with someone who can probably get packing their bags now. Phil Parkinson at Wrexham. Probably one that's not going to go down well with some Wrexham fans. But the reason I say that is because I just look at the job he's done so far, and great, he's a Wrexham legend, without a doubt. Of course, back-to-back promotions, it's a pretty impressive thing to do. But I think he is above his level now. I think he's out of his depth in the Championship, based off all the evidence that we've seen from him before at Championship level. And to be honest, I'm quite surprised he's managed to last this long at Wrexham, because he's not a big name. He's not someone who I think is going to enhance a documentary, put it that way. So with that being said, I think this could be Phil Parkinson's last season at Wrexham. I think the most likely scenario is they don't do as well as expected, and then they sack him and get in a manager who's a much bigger name and is more entertaining for a documentary. So yeah, Phil Parkinson, I'm pretty sure about losing his job at some point this season, unfortunately for him. How about a bit of Nathan Jones at Charlton? Yeah, you know what, instantly I'm going to put him in get comfy. And the reason for that is, financially, first of all, Charlton gave him a 5-year contract this past summer. 5-year contract, wow. So just purely for financial reasons, it will be a big ask for Charlton to sack him if he's not doing very well. And it would also be a lot if a club were to poach him either. So with that being said, I think it's almost completely out the question that Nathan Jones gets sacked this coming season. Just from a pure footballing standpoint, I would be surprised if he's ever in a position where he needs to go. Because Charlton, you know, the aim this season is going to be purely to stay up. If Charlton find themselves bottom of the table after 30 games, I don't think they're going to go, well, this was a disaster, we need to get rid of him now. I think they may actually look at him and go, he's the best guy to, you know, start the rebuild when they're back in League One, if that does happen. So yeah, I'd be very, very surprised if Nathan Jones were to lose his job this coming season. We'll just pick a random one next. How about Liam Manning at Norwich City? I'm going to put him in should be okay, straight from the off. And the reason I say that is because he is the new man at Norwich, and it looks like he's going to be there for the long term. Of course, did a fantastic job at Bristol City, and Norwich have gone out of their way to go get him in. So, all being well, should be there for the entire season. The only reason I've got a bit of doubt is because of the new sporting director, Ben Napper. And we thought the manager last season, Johannes Hoff-Thorup, was going to be the man who was going to be there for the long term, and that didn't work out. So, is he a man who's going to stick with managers? Who knows? Should be the case, but that is the only reason why I'm not putting him in get comfy at the moment, even though I think he should be there for the entire season. I'd be surprised if he's not, put it that way. How about another one for the old 50-50? We'll go with Julien Stéphan at QPR. Now, I'm fancying QPR to do pretty well this coming season because I like the signings they've made. I think Stéphan is a very, very promising appointment. But it is a new manager who we don't know how he's going to take to the Championship. So with that being said, there's just that slight bit of doubt in my mind that maybe they won't do as well as I think they will do this coming season. And maybe it's 50-50 worthy. So yeah, I'm going to put him in 50-50 just because we don't know. It's a new manager to the league, kind of similar with Gerhard Struber actually. But I'm more convinced about Stéphan than Struber of doing a very good job. That means we've got a nice little gap in uncertain. I'm going to cause a bit of controversy here. This isn't going to go down well, but I'm going to put Frank Lampard of Coventry City in there. Now, the reason for that is simple. you look at how Coventry did over the past 3 seasons now, I think. They've had a slow start to the season. There's been varying reason why that's been the case, but it's a fact. They've had a slow start to the past 3 seasons. And what happened in the past with Mark Robins is he managed to get them back on track, apart from last season, because he obviously lost his job. Now, say that were to happen again this coming season. Frank Lampard doesn't have as much credit in the bank as Coventry as Mark Robins did. And that's because Mark Robins, a Coventry legend. He's absolutely loved there still. If Frank Lampard has a bad start, are they going to be hanging around and be saying, oh, but he's done so much for us? Of course not. He's only been there for less than a year. So it wouldn't surprise me if Coventry do have another slow start, and I'm not sure they'll be as patient with old Frankie Lamps. I also look at it as well, if Coventry don't get a top 6 place this coming season, they haven't been very busy in the transfer window, then maybe he'll be in danger again then too. So, yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of question marks about Frank Lampard as a manager anyway, particularly if you look at how, I guess the best example really is how he did at Chelsea. He did great in his first season, kind of great. He did okay in his first season, and then things went off the rails in his second season. So could we see the same thing happen again at Coventry? I don't think it's out of the question. So I'm going to put him in uncertain, because I'm not totally sold on Lampard being there for this coming season. Probably not going to go down well, but, you know, send it on a postcard. We'll go with Kieran McKenna next to Ipswich. He's got to get comfy, hasn't he? The only thing that could possibly go wrong is if they aren't competing for automatic promotion this coming season. But I'll be very, 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 very surprised if that isn't the case. Surely Ipswich are going to be competing for automatics. And even if they weren't, even if they were just fighting for the playoffs, I guess McKenna's got enough credit in the bank because of what he's done in terms of getting Ipswich from League One to the Premier League, that they'll stick with him. But I mean, it's Kieran McKenna. He's the best manager in the division. Simple as that. So it would be very surprising if that's not the case. And the only reason I can't see him being at Ipswich this coming season is if he gets poached by another club. But this is purely based on being sacked or resigning. And I just don't see either of those things happening. He may get poached, but that's not what we're basing this tier list on. So all being well, Kieran McKenna should be getting comfy. I'm going to put Will Still of Southampton in get comfy as well. Or am I? No, you know what? I'll put him in should be okay. Just when I was saying it out loud just then, I'm a big fan of the Will Still appointment. I think it's going to be a very promising one, and I think he's going to be in charge of Southampton and the big rebuild they're doing after what was an absolutely honking season last year. And he looks like he's going to be there for the long term. This looks like it's a long-term appointment. But just in case things don't go to plan with Will Still, and he's not actually as good a manager as, you know, the media hype seems to indicate, I'll put him in should be okay, although I'm very much on the periphery of get comfy and should be okay with Will Still, because I think he should be a good appointment. And also, if things don't necessarily go to plan and they're not actually competing for automatic promotion like a lot of people are expecting them to do this coming season, I don't think it will be the end of the world, because, no, I think people will let him off because of how honking last season was. On the other hand, if there is a hangover from how badly they did in the Premier League, maybe he may find himself in a bit of trouble and things are going a lot worse than a lot of people expected. I don't know. I'm going should be okay, but I'm on the periphery of get comfy and should be okay. Alan Sheehan at Swansea, he can go in 50-50, purely because we don't really know how he's going to do this coming season. He did fantastic as a caretaker at Swansea last season, won a lot of games. I think he went on a 5-game winning run at one point. But we've seen caretakers in the past do very well, and then when they get the job on a permanent basis, not do so well. Alan Sheehan may be the same. He may end up being a tactical genius, or he may end up losing his job before Christmas. I don't really know with him. It's just one of those where there's a lot of unknowns, so I can't really put him in any category other than 50-50. And you know what? The same goes for Ryan Mason at West Brom. We don't know how he's going to do as a manager. He may end up being a tactical genius, may end up being out on his arse by Christmas. He did all right as a caretaker at Tottenham in the 2 spells that he did there, and he's obviously a very highly rated coach, but we've seen highly rated coaches in the past go up to the management job and then not do as well. So he may be exactly the same. He's 50-50. I don't know how it's going to go. I like to think it's going to do well, and Personally, I think he will be a good manager, but, that's basically purely down to how highly rated he is as a coach. So I don't really know how he's going to do as a manager. I can't put him in anything other than 50-50. Next up, we'll go with John Mousinho of Portsmouth. Should be okay. Let me talk out loud for a second. Think out loud for a second. I'll decide afterwards. John Mousinho, fantastic manager. What he's done so far at Portsmouth has been fantastic. And keep in mind, his first season was his first full season, and he won League One with Pompey. And then last season, he kept them up fairly comfortably in the end. Still a fairly young manager. I think he's got a lot of promise as a coach. So what could actually see him get sacked at Portsmouth this season? I'm not actually too sure, because I think if Portsmouth were fighting to stay up again this season, I don't think it would be completely down to him. I think they would stick with him for the entire season. So you know what? I'm going to put him in get comfy. I can't really foresee what would be a season where he would be in danger of losing his job, but I don't see that happening anyway. I think Portsmouth are going to build upon last season and continue to just stabilise themselves as a solid championship side. So yeah, get comfy, John Mousinho. We haven't told anyone to start packing their bags in a while, have we? Oh, here we go. Paulo Pezzolano of Watford. Why is he in there? Because he's at Watford. Do I need to add any more? No, it's Watford, and well, there's 4 reasons really actually why he's very much in the pack your bags category. Firstly, it's Watford. 2, he's only signed a year-long contract, so it doesn't look like he's exactly got a lot of faith from the Watford hierarchy in him being able to do a good job going forwards. Thirdly, I'm not hugely convinced by his CV. He's done a lot of work outside of Europe, and he's done well in the second tier of leagues, but the Championship is a whole different kettle of fish when it comes to its second tier. So I think he's got a big job on his hands. And the other thing is, Watford's owners have publicly said they're expecting them to fight for the playoffs this season. Tom Cleverley, in my book, did brilliantly well to get them fighting in mid-table / kind of competing for the playoffs at various stages last season. So now that he's gone, Paulo Pezzolano has got a big job on his hands to try and get them competing for the playoffs again this season. So I think the expectations there are completely out of sync with where Watford actually are. So yeah, he's definitely in pack your bags. And you know what? Another one who's in there is Danny Rule at Sheffield Wednesday. And look, I really rate Danny Rule as a manager. I think he's got a very promising career ahead of him. But with everything that's going on at Sheffield Wednesday right now, he's got to be in pack your bags just by default, really, because I don't really know how things are going to pan out there. He may not be at Sheffield Wednesday by the start of the season. There's already been speculation about his future going forwards, because he was trying to negotiate his release from the club. Then he came back to training, and then they said, actually, reports are now that he may not be there for the foreseeable future. So we don't really know what's going on with him. But as far as this tier list is concerned, he's got to be in pack your bags now, because who really knows? I'm going to put Mark Robins at Stoke City in uncertain. And the reason for that is because Stoke go through managers like it's nothing. I mean, they had 3 managers last season, and it would not surprise me if he were to lose his job this coming season. The only reason I'm not putting him in pack your bags now is because I feel like Mark Robins may be someone who they look at and go, well, look at what he did with Coventry. He is someone we should stick with for the long term. But I'm not hugely convinced about it. I think you've got to go back a fair few years now. I think it's probably Michael O'Neill, who lost his job in 2022 as the last guy who managed to last an entire season at Stoke. So Mark Robins hasn't got past experience with Stoke managers. He hasn't got that on his side. But also I think expectations are probably the lowest they've ever been at Stoke as well. So that is on his side. So if they are fighting to stay up again this season, then maybe they'll just think that he's experienced, we should stick with him. But yeah, I'm not hugely convinced, because Stoke, a bit of a mess of a club, really. Gary Rowett at Oxford, I'm going to put him in should be okay for now, but I may put him in get comfy, because yeah, I mean, when it comes to experienced managers who have shown that they can do a good job at this level, Gary Rowett is very much in that bracket. There aren't too many clubs where he's done a bad job, really, apart from Stoke, who we were just talking about. So, yeah, he should be... You know, I'm going to put him in get comfy, actually, because I think also Oxford's expectations this season are pretty low. They're looking very much at, we should be just looking to stay up this coming season. I don't think anything over the summer has changed that. And so, actually, if they're bottom of the table after so many games, then they'll look at Gary Rowett and go, well, are we realistically going to get much better than him? So, yeah, Gary Rowett, I think, should be getting comfy no matter how the season pans out for Oxford this year. I keep getting confused because we've got Gerhard Struber here, although he's already there. How about Valerian Ismail? I'm going to put him in uncertain. Now, the reason I say that is because Blackburn are another club who have a habit of going through managers, although their last two managers both left because they weren't happy with the ambition being shown by the club. Is that going to change with the Valerian Ismail? I'm not too sure. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one with him. I think he's more than likely to resign than get sacked because I think expectations are pretty low at Blackburn again this coming season. I don't think anyone is realistically looking at them thinking they should be competing for a playoff place again this coming season. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's just the vibes I'm getting from Blackburn. So, yeah, expectations are pretty low. He may end up resigning if he's not happy with the amount of money he's being backed with. But yeah, not hugely convinced on Ismail going forwards either, because I haven't seen much from the past few years of him as a manager that he is going to be the man who's going to be the guy to bring success to Blackburn. I'm going to stick Marty Cifuentes of Leicester City and pack your bags now as well. And it's mainly down to the reasons that I've mentioned on the podcast in recent weeks. Simply put, Marty Cifuentes, I'm not completely sold on him because his QPR spell was very up and down. Yes, he hit the goals that were expected of him, but there was a lot of bad form, a lot of good form, a lot of bad form, a lot of good form. At QPR, he was afforded time. But at Leicester, things are very, very shaky behind the scenes. I think the big thing is Leicester fans, they've been so conditioned over the past 10 years to be expecting their club to be fighting for, at the top end of the Premier League. So if they're not doing that this coming season, which I don't think they will be, then, well, obviously not at the top end of the Premier League, so in the Championship, but I don't think they'll be fighting at the top end of the Championship this coming season. And if that doesn't happen, then where does that leave Marty Cifuentes? Are fans going to be happy just, twiddling their thumbs, looking at a season where they're mid-table, maybe fighting for the playoffs? I'm not sure they will be. And we've seen them sack managers for a lot less. Look at Steve Cooper last season. So yeah, I'm not entirely sold on this one. I think he's got a big job on his hands, and having to also, he may be the kind of guy who faces a lot of the anger that Leicester fans will have towards how the club is generally being run. We'll fly through these last few ones. Chris Davies at Birmingham City, I think it should be okay. I'm not going to put him in get comfy though. I don't want to annoy Birmingham fans with that sentiment, but the reason I say that is because got to keep in mind expectations are a lot higher now at Birmingham considering the amount of money they've spent over this past summer and will maybe continue to spend before the transfer window closes. So expectations are high at Birmingham, and Chris Davies, he's still got a lot to prove as a manager because, all he's done so far in his career is get Birmingham promoted from League One with the highest budget League One has ever seen. I personally think he will continue to do well at Birmingham, and I think he'll be having them competing right at the top end of the division this coming season. But that little bit of doubt in my mind is why I'm not going the whole hog with him. And also got to be pointed out, last time Birmingham were in the Championship, they had 5 managers. So, the hierarchy have still got a bit of proving themselves to do, I guess. But yeah, I think Chris Davies will be at Birmingham coming the end of the season, but I'm not going the whole hog and putting him get comfy. Got 2 managers left. Ignore Gerhard Struber. I don't know why he's in there twice. We'll go with Paul Heckingbottom at Preston. I'm going to put him in uncertain, I think, although I'm tempted to put him pack your bags now. I think Paul Heckingbottom is in the unenviable position of having to prove Preston, or having to prove a lot of people wrong. I think he's starting this season on the back foot after how shocking Preston were at the end of last season, winning just 1 in 15 games and nearly getting relegated. So yeah, I think he's got a lot of doubters to prove wrong this coming season. I'm tempted to put him in pack your bags now, but I don't think it's that bad. But yeah, I'm very uncertain with him going forwards, and I think Preston again maybe fighting to stay up. And finally, we've got Alex Neil at Millwall. I'm going to put him in, should be okay. I think Millwall are a pretty patient club, and I don't think it will be the end of the world if they're not fighting for the playoffs this coming season. But at the same time, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if they're not doing as well as expected, and maybe they look at it and think we should get someone else in. I think Millwall will be fighting for the playoffs this coming season, and maybe even finishing in the playoffs. But I'm not that convinced, to put it that way. It's a bit of a difficult one, but I think they should be doing all right. I rate Alex Neil as a manager as well, but I'm not putting him in get comfy. But there we have it. Now comes the part of the rankings where we get the top and bottom tiers and rank them on how, in this case, safe they are and how uncertain they are for the season ahead. In terms of get comfy, I think the most comfy manager has to be Nathan Jones, purely because of the financial things that I mentioned before. 5-year contract, and I just don't see how things going so badly that they look at it and go, we've got to get rid of him now. So yeah, I think Nathan Jones can get comfy. I think Gary Rowett is probably in the same category actually as that. Just purely because I think Oxford will be fighting to stay up this coming season. And I don't see them thinking to themselves, we need to get rid of him and get someone else in who is more proven at this level than Gary Rowett. I just don't see that being realistic. I think I'm going to put John Eustace next, because I think expectations are fairly low at Derby this season, but I think they could do quite well. I think they could surprise a lot of people, and I think Derby fans are just thinking John Eustace is the man for the long term. So yeah, I think John Eustace is pretty safe no matter what happens this coming season, even though I think they will do quite well. But yeah, John Eustace, and then Kieran McKenna I think is the next one, because it's Kieran McKenna. I'd be stunned if things don't go as a lot of people are expecting with Ipswich this coming season, but I'm not as certain on it as these 3 guys here, because Ipswich, the bar is pretty high with them. But yeah, it's Kieran McKenna. He's the best manager in the Championship, and a lot of things will have to have gone wrong for everything to go as badly as they would have to. And finally, John Mousinho at Portsmouth, just not as confident on him as the other 4 managers here, even though he's getting towards Portsmouth legendary status, I guess. Pack your bags now. Danny Rule just has to be there, doesn't he? Purely because of the uncertainty that's going on at Sheffield Wednesday right now. Next up, I would say Paulo Pezzolano at Watford, I think has to be the next one. Because of the 4 reasons I mentioned before, but also because I just think expectations are so out of sync there, and it's not exactly like Watford have given him a big vote of confidence by just giving him a 1-year contract. Next up, we'll have Jakirović at Hull, because Hull's hierarchy have shown they're not the most patient of owners, probably the least patient owners actually, because they sometimes sack managers even when they're doing quite well. And then I'll go Phil Parkinson at Wrexham. Mentioned before, I think he's now out of his depth at Championship level, and I think the most likely scenario is this season is they get in someone who is a bigger name and better for documentary sales. And then Marty Cifuentes at Leicester. I think all these managers, I'll be stunned if any of them are at their respective club come the end of the season. But these 5 in particular, yeah, they are definitely in danger. But there we have it. This has been me ranking every manager in the Championship based on how likely they are to be sacked this coming season. Do you agree with me? Let me know in the comments section below. If you've enjoyed the video, make sure you like and subscribe for more content like this. I've been Ryan Dilks from the SACKED here, and a big thank you for watching.